My parents call it just a get-together when I wasn't invited to my sister's engagement party. So I took off on a solo trip instead. Hours later, my phone couldn't stop vibrating. I found out about Madison's engagement party from Instagram. Let me clarify. I didn't see the invitation. I saw the decorations being set up in my parents' backyard while scrolling through my cousin Heather's story at 8 o'clock p.m. on a Thursday night. White string lights wrapped around the pergola my father built last summer, tables draped in blush pink linens, a banner that read, "She said yes," in gold cursive letters. My sister was getting engaged, apparently, and everyone knew except me. I stared at my phone screen for what felt like an hour, but was probably closer to 3 minutes. The pit in my stomach grew with each passing second. I called my mother immediately. "Oh, honey," she answered, her voice carrying that particular tone she uses when she's about to gaslight me. "It's just a small get-together, very casual. We didn't want you to feel obligated to come all the way from the city. I lived 45 minutes away, not across the country, not even in another state." "A get-together," I repeated flatly. "Yes, just close family and a few friends. Nothing formal." Madison specifically said she wanted to keep it low-key. The thing about lies is that liars often forget what they've already said. I could literally see the professional photographer's equipment in Heather's next story. The catering van from Marcellos's, the most expensive Italian restaurant in our county, was parked in the driveway. Right. Low key. Got it. Sweetheart, don't be dramatic about this. There it was. The word that had followed me through my entire childhood. Dramatic. Anytime I expressed hurt, disappointment, or anger, I was being dramatic. When Madison got the bigger bedroom because she was older, I was dramatic for crying about it. When they paid for her entire sorority fees, but told me community college built character, I was dramatic for questioning the fairness. When Madison wrecked Dad's car and he bought her a new one while I was still riding the bus at 19, I was dramatic for pointing out the double standard. I hung up without saying goodbye. My hands shook as I opened my laptop and pulled up a travel website. If I was going to be excluded from family events, I might as well make it worth their while. Within 90 minutes, I had booked a flight to Portland, Oregon. I'd always wanted to see the Pacific Northwest. My friend Jenna from college had moved there 3 years ago and constantly sent me photos of waterfalls, forests, and the quirky coffee shops downtown. She'd been begging me to visit forever. I texted her around 11:30 p.m. "Are you free this weekend? I'm coming to Portland." Her response came through in seconds. "OMG, yes. What's the occasion?" "Family drama. I'll explain when I see you." I didn't sleep much that night. Instead, I lay in bed scrolling through Madison's social media, torturing myself with the evidence of my own irrelevance. Photos of her showing off her ring, a massive princess-cut diamond that probably cost more than my car. Pictures of her fiancé, Brett, who looked like every other finance bro in a button D down and khakis. Comments from relatives I hadn't heard from in years, all congratulating her, all pretending they gave a damn about family. My flight left Friday at 6:00 a.m. The engagement party was scheduled for Saturday at 2 p.m. Perfect timing. Friday morning, I packed a carry-on with enough clothes for 4 days, grabbed my passport, even though I wouldn't need it, and called an Uber to the airport. I switched my phone to airplane mode before my mother could call and try to manipulate me into coming home. The flight was uneventful. I watched the clouds outside my window and felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Freedom. For the first time in my adult life, I was making a choice that had nothing to do with my family's expectations or Madison's shadow. Jenna picked me up from PDX with 2 iced lattes and a hug that lasted a full minute. "Okay, spill," she said as we drove toward her apartment in the Pearl District. "What happened?" I told her everything. The Instagram discovery, my mother's pathetic excuse, the years of being treated like an afterthought. She listened without interrupting, which is one of the reasons we'd stayed friends for so long. "That's absolutely insane." She finally said, "You know what? We're going to make this the best weekend of your life. Forget them." We spent Friday evening exploring Powell's City of Books, where I bought 3 novels I've been meaning to read. We had dinner at a tiny ramen shop where the broth was so good I almost cried. We walked along the waterfront as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple I'd never seen back home. I didn't turn my phone back on until Saturday morning. Big mistake. 73 notifications, missed calls, texts, voicemails. My stomach dropped. The first text was from my mother, sent at 8 o'clock p.m. Friday. Where are you? We need to talk about tomorrow. The second was from my father, sent at 9 o'clock p.m. Your mother is very upset. Call her. Then Madison sent at 10 p.m. Mom said, You're being difficult again. Can you please just come tomorrow? It would mean a lot. Would mean a lot. The audacity. I ignored all of them and had breakfast with Jenna at a cafe that served the fluffiest pancakes I'd ever eaten. We planned our day, Malta Falls, the Japanese garden, maybe hit up some vintage shops in Hawthorne. I was determined to stay off my phone. That lasted about 3 hours. At 2:15 p.m., Pacific time, right when the engagement party would be starting back home, my phone began vibrating nonstop. I was standing at the base of Multmo Falls, surrounded by tourists and the sound of cascading water, and my pocket wouldn't stop buzzing. I pulled out my phone. 42. New messages in the family group chat just in the last 15 minutes. Madison, where is Nora? Mom, I'm sure she's just running late. Aunt Carol, I haven't seen her car outside. Dad, she's not coming. Madison, what? Why not? Mom, she's being unreasonable. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Today is about you. Then the private messages started flooding in. Cousins, aunts, uncles, even family friends I barely knew. Everyone suddenly cared about my whereabouts. Heather, are you okay? Your mom looks really stressed. My Uncle Paul, did something happen? Your parents seem off. My grandmother, whom I love dearly, sweetheart, where are you? I wanted to see you today. That last one stung. Grandma Ruth was the only family member who'd ever treated Madison and me equally. She'd be disappointed, but she'd also understand once I explained. I didn't respond to anyone. Instead, I took a photo of the waterfall, the mist creating tiny rainbows in the afternoon light. I posted it to my Instagram story with the location tagged in the caption, "Sometimes the best decisions are the spontaneous ones." Then I silenced my phone completely and slipped it back into my pocket. Jenna noticed my expression. Family losing their minds completely. Good. Let them. We spent the afternoon hiking, breathing in the fresh scent of pine and moss. I felt lighter with each step, as if physical distance from home was releasing something I'd been carrying for 26 years. By the time we got back to Jenna's apartment around 6 p.m., my phone had accumulated another 90 notifications on top of what I'd already seen. I sat on her couch and finally decided to look through all of them properly. Before diving into the messages, I ordered Thai food from a place Jenna recommended, Pad CE, with extra broccoli. Comfort food felt necessary for whatever digital nightmare awaited me. Jenna poured us both generous glasses of Pinot Noir and settled in beside me, clearly ready for the show. Want me to read them out loud? She offered, like a dramatic reading. Please don't. I might actually throw this phone out the window. Fair enough. But I'm here if you need moral support or someone to tell you you're not crazy. I appreciated that more than she knew. Growing up in my family, I'd spent years questioning my own perception of reality. Was I too sensitive? Was I imagining the favoritism? Was I making mountains out of molehills? Having an outside perspective, someone who wasn't drowning in the family dysfunction, made all the difference. The family group chat had dissolved into chaos. Madison, is she seriously on vacation right now during my engagement party? Mom, let's not make this about Nora. Please, everyone, focus on celebrating. Aunt Carol, it is a little strange that she's not here. Cousin Mike, she posted a story from Oregon. Looks like Multnomah Falls, Madison, Oregon. She flew to Oregon instead of coming to my party. Dad, that's enough. Everyone drop it. But they didn't drop it. The messages continued getting progressively more dramatic. My cousin Sarah. Okay, but why wasn't Nora invited in the first place? I'm confused. Aunt Linda, she was invited. She just chose not to come. Sarah, that's not what I heard. Someone told me she found out about this from Instagram. The group chat went silent for exactly 4 minutes. Then my mother, can we please discuss this privately? This is Madison's special day, but the damage was done. Other relatives started asking questions in the chat. Why didn't I know about the party? Was there a family fight? What was going on? My private messages were worse. Madison had sent me 15 texts, each one more unhinged than the last. You're so selfish. This is my day, and you're making it about you. Everyone is asking where you are, and it's humiliating. Red's family thinks we have drama. I can't believe you do this to me. You've always been jealous. Mom and Dad are so disappointed. You're ruining everything. That last message made me laugh out loud. I was ruining everything by not attending a party I wasn't invited to. The mental gymnastics were Olympic level. I showed Jenna the messages. She read through them, her expression shifting from amused to genuinely angry. This is insane, she said. She's literally blaming you for ruining a party you were deliberately excluded from. Does she hear herself? Madison has never been great at self-reflection. I admit it. None of us are really. It's a family trait. Still, this is next-level delusion. You were making it about you when they literally hid an engagement party from you. The cognitive dissonance is astronomical. The typhoon arrived, and I paid the delivery driver while Jenna set up plates on her coffee table. We ate in relative silence for a few minutes while I continued scrolling through messages. There were texts from people I hadn't heard from in literal years, suddenly very concerned about my well-being and my relationship with my family. My mother's best friend, Karen, whom I'd last seen at a Christmas party 5 years ago. Hi, sweetie. Your mom is really upset. Maybe you should call her. My father's brother, Uncle Richard, who lived in Florida and never called. Family is important. Nora, don't throw it away over pride. Even my high school friend Tiffany, who was friends with Madison on Facebook. Hey girl, heard there's some family drama. Hope you're okay. Let me know if you want to grab drinks and talk. The thing about family crisis is that they bring out everyone's opinions about situations they don't fully understand. People who'd never witnessed the decades of subtle favoritism, who hadn't been there for every Christmas where Madison's gift outweighed mine by a factor of 3, who didn't know about the college fund that mysteriously only covered one daughter's education. They saw a girl skipping her sister's party and assumed she was being petty. You know what's wild? I said to Jenna between bites of noodles. Half these people have no idea what actually happened. They're just assuming I'm the problem because that's the story they've been told. That's how family narratives work. Jenna replied. She'd majored in psychology and loved analyzing group dynamics. Whoever controls the narrative controls how people perceive the situation. Your mom has probably been crafting this difficult daughter narrative about you for years. She was right. Growing up, anytime I questioned something or stood up for myself, I was labeled as difficult, dramatic, too sensitive. Madison could throw a tantrum, and it was because she was passionate. I could express mild frustration, and suddenly, I was overreacting. The double standard had been so consistent, so pervasive, that even I had started to believe I was the problem. I spent so many years thinking something was wrong with me, I confessed. Like, maybe I really was too sensitive or too demanding. Maybe I deserved to be treated like an afterthought. Jenna reached over and squeezed my hand. There's nothing wrong with you, Nora. There's something wrong with a family system that makes one child feel less than to elevate the other. That's not love. That's dysfunction. My mother called. I declined. She called again. Declined. On the third call, I answered. Nora Marie, you need to explain yourself right now. My full name. She was furious. Explain what exactly? My voice was calm, which I knew would infuriate her more. You know what? You embarrassed this entire family today. Madison is devastated. Your grandmother kept asking about you. Everyone is talking about your little stunt. My stunt? I went on vacation. Mom, people do that. The weekend of your sister's engagement party. The engagement party I wasn't invited to. Silence on the other end. Then we discussed this. It was a small gathering. We didn't think you'd be interested, right? So small, you invited cousin Mike, whom I haven't spoken to in 5 years. So casual, you hired a photographer in catering. So low-key, you rented specialty linens. How did you Instagram? Mom, your generation really needs to learn about privacy settings. Don't you dare turn this around. You deliberately missed your sister's celebration out of spite. I missed a party I was deliberately excluded from. There's a difference. You're being a child. I'm being an adult who refuses to accept crumbs of affection from a family that's made it very clear where I rank. I could hear my father's voice in the background saying something I couldn't make out. Your father wants to talk to you, Mom said. I don't want to talk to him. Nora, I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear or sadness, from anger, from years of suppressed frustration finally boiling over. The adrenaline coursing through my body was intense. I'd never spoken to my mother like that before, never hung up on her, never directly challenged her version of events. My heart pounded in my chest like I'd just run a marathon. Holy, Jenna breathed. Did that actually just happen? I think I just blew up my entire family. No, she corrected firmly. You just stopped letting them blow up your sense of self-worth. There's a difference. I wanted to believe her. Part of me did believe her, but another part, the part that had been conditioned for 26 years to prioritize family harmony over my own feelings, was screaming that I'd made a terrible mistake. That voice sounded a lot like my mother's. What if I'm being unfair? I asked quietly. What if they really did think I'd be too busy to come? Jenna gave me a look that was equal parts compassion and exasperation. Nora, listen to yourself. You're trying to rationalize why it's okay that your family excluded you from a major life event. You're trying to make their bad behavior your fault. That's what they've trained you to do. She was right, but unlearning decades of conditioning wasn't going to happen in one evening. I knew intellectually that I deserved better treatment. Knowing it emotionally was harder. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a voicemail from my father. I put it on speaker so Jenna could hear. Nora, your mother is very upset right now. I think you need to apologize for the things you said to her. She's only ever tried to do what's best for you girls. This whole situation has gotten out of hand, and frankly, I expected better from you. You know how sensitive your mother is. Please call her back and make this right. Madison's engagement should be a happy time for this family, not a source of conflict. The message ended. Jenna and I stared at each other. Did he just ask you to apologize? She asked incredulously. Yep. For what? For accurately describing what they did to you. For upsetting Mom. Apparently, that's always been the cardinal sin in our house. Doesn't matter what she does, as long as nobody makes her feel bad about it. Your family dynamics are truly something else. I laughed, but it came out bitter. You should see us at Thanksgiving. It's like watching everyone tiptoe around the landmine, trying desperately not to set off Mom while she plays the martyr about cooking dinner that nobody asked her to cook. Does Madison see any of this? I don't know anymore. I used to think she was complicit, like she actively enjoyed being the favorite. But now I'm wondering if she's just as trapped in this as I am, just in a different way. Jenna handed me a glass of wine. You're not trapped anymore, though. You literally left the state. Physically, sure. Emotionally, I'm still right there in that living room feeling guilty for existing. We spent the next hour talking about family dynamics, trauma responses, and the particular hell of being the scapegoat child. Jenna shared some of her own experiences with her parents, who were divorced and used her as a messenger between them for years. We bonded over the shared experience of being parentified, therapized, and forced into roles we never asked for. Around 9 p.m., completely exhausted from the emotional roller coaster, I decided to take a bath. Jenna's apartment had a deep soaking tub, and she offered me some lavender bath salts and a scented candle. I locked myself in the bathroom and let the hot water ease the tension from my shoulders. In the quiet, with just the sound of water and my own breathing, I finally let myself cry. Not sad tears, exactly. More like release tears. Grief for the family I'd always wanted but never had. Anger at the years I'd spent trying to earn love that should have been freely given. Relief that I'd finally said something, instead of swallowing it down like always. My phone sat on the bathroom counter face down. I could see the screen lighting up periodically with new notifications. Each flash felt like a tiny accusation. How dare you? Who do you think you are? Come back here and take your punishment like a good daughter. But I didn't pick it up. For once, I let myself be unavailable. Let myself be unreachable. Let the chaos swirl without me at the center of it. When I finally got out of the bath, pruny and slightly dizzy from the heat, Jenna had made up her guest room with fresh sheets and left a glass of water on the nightstand. There was a post-it note on the pillow. You're doing great. I'm proud of you. Get some sleep. I crawled into bed and checked my phone one last time before sleep. 214 notifications. Now the family group chat had exploded into a full-scale argument about favoritism, lies, and family dysfunction. Cousins were taking sides. Aunts were sharing their own stories of feeling overlooked. Uncle Paul had apparently brought up the time Dad loaned Madison $10,000, but refused to help him with a down payment. The whole facade was crumbling, and I hadn't even tried to tear it down. I just stopped holding it up. The next morning, I woke to find the notification count had climbed even higher. The family dysfunction had become the main topic of conversation, with various relatives sharing their own experiences of feeling overlooked or manipulated. Jenna handed me a glass of wine. "You're my hero right now. You know that, right?" I took a long sip. "I probably just made everything worse. Or," she countered, "you finally stood up for yourself and they can't handle it." My phone rang again. This time it was Madison. Against my better judgment, I answered. "How could you?" Her voice was thick with tears. "You've always hated me. Always been jealous. And now you're trying to ruin the happiest moment of my life. Madison, I didn't even know about your engagement party until I saw it on Instagram." "You want to talk about how I've ruined things? Let's talk about how you deliberately excluded your only sister from your celebration. Mom said you couldn't make it. She said you had work. That stopped me cold." "What?" "She said you had some big work presentation and couldn't get out of it, so there was no point in sending you an invitation." I closed my eyes. Our mother had played us both. Lied to Madison about why I wasn't there. Lied to me about it being a small gathering. Orchestrated the whole thing to avoid confrontation, never considering that the truth would come out. "Madison, I didn't have a work presentation. Mom never told me about your party. I found out by accident." Silence on her end. Then quietly, "Are you serious?" "Completely serious." I called her Thursday night after seeing Heather's Instagram story. She told me it was just a casual get-together and that you specifically wanted to keep it small. "I invited 70 people. Nora, I wanted you there. You're my sister." The words hit differently than I expected. Madison and I hadn't been close in years, mostly because our parents had pitted us against each other our entire lives. But hearing the hurt in her voice made something crack inside my chest. "She lied to both of us," I said softly. "Why would she do that?" I had theories. Our mother had always been conflict-averse to the point of toxicity. She'd rather lie to everyone than have a difficult conversation. She'd rather manipulate situations than address the underlying issues. She'd spent decades playing favorites while pretending everything was fair. And she'd gotten so good at it, she probably believed her own lies. "I don't know, Madison, but I'm in Portland right now because I thought my family didn't want me at one of the biggest moments in my sister's life." "Portland?" She sounded confused. "Like Oregon?" "Yeah. I got on a plane Friday morning." "Jesus, Nora." She laughed, but it sounded sad. "You really didn't know." I really didn't. We sat in silence for a moment, processing. Then Madison said something that surprised me. "Mom's been doing stuff like this for years, hasn't she?" "Yeah, she has. I'm starting to realize how many times she's told me things about you that might not have been true, like how you didn't want to go to my college graduation. I was never told about your college graduation, Mads. I found out about it afterward and thought you didn't want me there." "Oh my God," her voice cracked. "What has she been doing to us?" It felt like a dam breaking. All those years of manufactured distance, of misunderstandings and hurt feelings, and our mother had been at the center of it all. "I'm sorry I wasn't there today," I said genuinely. "I would have come if I'd known. I'm sorry too, for believing her, for not reaching out directly." "What happened to us?" I asked. "We used to be close. Mom happened to us," Madison said bitterly, "and I think it's time we did something about it." After we hung up, I felt exhausted, but also strangely hopeful. Madison and I made plans to meet for dinner the following weekend. Just the two of us, no parents involved. We were going to talk, really talk, for the first time in years. But the drama wasn't over, not by a long shot. Sunday morning, I woke to a series of texts from various family members who'd apparently spent all night discussing the situation. The truth about Mom's lies had spread through the family like wildfire. Madison had told Brett, who told his parents, who mentioned it to some of the guests. Aunt Carol had started asking pointed questions. Cousin Sarah had gone full detective mode. The family group chat was a war zone. Aunt Carol: "Nancy, did you really tell Nora she wasn't invited?" Mom: "This is a private family matter." Uncle Paul: "Private? You made it public by lying about it at the party. Uncle Richard, my dad's brother who lived in Florida and rarely called. What's going on here? Someone fill me in. Grandma Ruth. Nancy, I'm very disappointed in you. That message from Grandma was probably what hurt my mother the most. Ruth was her mother-in-law, and they'd always had a respectful but slightly tense relationship. Grandma Ruth didn't mince words, and her disappointment carried weight. Dad finally chimed in. Everyone needs to calm down. This is between Nancy and the girls. Sarah, no. Uncle Tom, it's really not. We all deserve to know if we're being lied to about family events. The chat devolved further. People taking sides, arguments about favoritism and family dynamics. Someone brought up the time my parents paid for Madison's wedding dress shopping trip to New York, but told me they couldn't afford to help with my car repairs. My cousin Mike mentioned the Christmas when Madison got a laptop and I got a gift card to Target. Every buried resentment, every overlooked slight came pouring out, and I wasn't even participating in the conversation. My mother called me 6 times Sunday morning. I didn't answer. She left voicemails ranging from angry to tearful to guilt-trippy. You've turned the whole family against me, one of them said. I hope you're happy. I wasn't happy exactly, but I wasn't sad either. Mostly, I felt relieved. The truth was out there now. People could make their own judgments. My father's brother, Richard, called too, leaving a message about how family is everything and how I shouldn't throw it away over pride. Easy for him to say from his condo in Tampa, completely disconnected from the daily reality of our family dynamics. Jenna and I spent Sunday exploring the Japanese garden, eating food cart cuisine, and browsing the Saturday market that was still running on Sunday. I posted more photos to my Instagram, showing off the beautiful city and my genuine smile. Multiple family members commented, which felt surreal. Grandma Ruth, beautiful sweetheart, enjoy yourself. Cousin Sarah, you look so happy, good for you. Even Aunt Linda, who'd initially sided with my mother, glad you're having fun, honey. Monday morning, I flew back home. Jenna hugged me tight at the airport. You've started something, she said. I hope you know that. I know. Are you ready for whatever comes next? I have no idea, but I'm done being the family doormat. The flight back felt different than the flight out. I wasn't running away anymore. I was returning on my own terms, with my eyes wide open and my boundaries firmly established. I landed around 3:00 p.m. and took my time driving home from the airport. My apartment had never looked more welcoming. I was unpacking when someone knocked on my door. Madison stood in the hallway holding 2 coffees from my favorite shop. Can we talk? She asked. We sat on my couch and talked for 3 hours. She apologized for years of going along with our parents' favoritism, even when she knew it was wrong. I apologized for resenting her instead of recognizing that she was also a victim of our mother's manipulation. We cried, we laughed, we made a plan. During those 3 hours, Madison told me things I'd never known. Her mom used to tell her that I was jealous of her success, that I talked badly about her behind her back, that I was competitive and couldn't be trusted with personal information. How every achievement Madison shared with the family came with a warning from Mom. Don't tell your sister yet. She's going through a hard time and might feel bad about herself. She made me feel like I had to hide my happiness from you, Madison said, wiping tears from her eyes. Like being successful meant hurting you, and I believed her. I thought you resented me. I did resent you. I admit it. But not for the reasons Mom told you. I resented that you got the love and attention I was starving for. I resented that you seemed to get everything easily while I fought for scraps. But I never wanted you to fail, Mads. I just wanted to matter too. She grabbed my hand. You did matter. You do matter. I was just too caught up in my own stuff to see what was happening. We talked about specific incidents from our childhood and teenage years. The time Madison got a car for her 16th birthday and I got a bus pass and was told to be grateful. How Mom threw Madison a huge graduation party, but told me mine would be just family because money was tight, even though it was only 2 years later. The way Madison's boyfriends were always welcomed into the house, while mine were subjected to interrogations and suspicion. I thought that was normal, Madison confessed. I thought all families had a kid who needed more attention and a kid who was more independent. I needed just as much. I just learned early that asking for it wouldn't get me anywhere. God, Nora, I'm so sorry. I really am. What surprised me most was how much pain Madison carried too. Being the golden child came with its own cage. Every achievement was expected. Every mistake was devastating because it threatened her position. She'd spent her whole life performing perfection to maintain the love that should have been unconditional. Brett noticed it, she said. He told me how I panic if I think I've disappointed his parents, how I need constant reassurance. He asked me why I apologize so much, even for things that aren't my fault. And I realized I've been apologizing my whole life for taking up space, for not being perfect enough, for potentially losing their approval. That's exactly how I feel, I said, stunned. I apologize for existing. We're both messed up, just in different ways. Mom made sure of that. We discussed Brett and his family. According to Madison, they were refreshingly normal. They had conflicts, but addressed them directly. They could disagree without creating drama. Brett's mother had actually apologized to Madison once for being short with her during a stressful week. She apologized, Madison repeated, like it was a foreign concept. Can you imagine Mom ever doing that? Taking accountability for her behavior? I couldn't. In my entire life, I'd never heard my mother say the words, "I'm sorry," unless they were followed by, "You feel that way," or "You misunderstood." The plan was simple. Boundaries. Real ones. Madison and I would maintain our relationship independent of our parents. We'd communicate directly instead of through them. We'd call out lies when we heard them. We'd support each other instead of competing for scraps of approval. Brett's parents are great, Madison told me. They have their issues, but they're straightforward. No games. Being around them has made me realize how messed up our family dynamics are. Are you going to confront Mom? We're going to confront Mom, she corrected, together this week. Wednesday evening, Madison and I arrived at our childhood home together. We texted our parents that we needed to have a family meeting. Dad opened the door looking wary. Mom sat in the living room, her arms crossed defensively. Walking into the house felt surreal. Everything looked exactly the same as it had during my childhood. The same beige couch that Mom had reupholstered twice rather than replace. The same family photos on the wall, though I noticed there were significantly more of Madison than of me. The same artificial floral arrangement on the coffee table that had been there for at least a decade. But I felt different walking through that door. For the first time in my life, I wasn't walking in alone. Madison was beside me, and we were united in a way we'd never been before. We'd rehearsed what we wanted to say. We promised each other we wouldn't let Mom redirect or manipulate the conversation. We were ready. Dad gestured for us to sit down. Madison and I chose the love seat across from where Mom sat in her usual armchair. Dad hovered near the doorway like he wasn't sure whether to stay or flee. The air was thick with tension. Mom's jaw was set in that particular way she had when she was preparing for battle. Her hands were clasped tightly in her lap, knuckles white. She looked smaller than I remembered somehow, fragile. It was a look she'd used before when she wanted sympathy. "Girls," she started, her voice saccharine sweet. "I'm so glad you're both here. We can put this silly misunderstanding behind us." "It wasn't a misunderstanding," I said firmly. "It was a deliberate lie." "It was a deliberate lie. Multiple lies, actually." Mom's expression flickered just for a second before the mask slid back into place. "I don't know what you—" "Mom!" Madison's voice was sharp. "Stop, we've compared notes. We know what you did." That's when Mom's face changed. The sweetness evaporated, replaced by something colder. "I see. You two have been talking about me behind my back, ganging up on your mother. How lovely." "We've been sharing our experiences," Madison corrected. "Experiences that don't match up with the stories you've been telling us about each other for years." I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app, where Madison and I had documented everything we wanted to address. Having it written down felt important, like evidence we could reference when Mom tried to gaslight us. "Let's start with the engagement party," I began. "Mom, you told me it was a small, casual get-together. You said Madison wanted to keep it low-key. You specifically said there was no point in inviting me. And you told me," Madison interjected, "that Nora had a major work presentation and couldn't make it. You said you'd already asked her and she declined." Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. I could see her calculating which lie to commit to. "You lied to both of us," I continued. "You deliberately kept me away from Madison's celebration and told her I didn't want to be there. Why?" "I was trying to protect you both," Mom said, her voice rising. "Nora, you always get so upset when Madison has good news. I didn't want you to feel bad about yourself, and Madison, you've worked so hard for your happiness. I didn't want your sister's jealousy to ruin your special day." There it was, the narrative she'd constructed. I was jealous. Madison needed protection from me. Mom was just trying to keep the peace. That's not true, I said quietly. I've never been jealous of Madison's happiness. I've been hurt by the constant message that her happiness matters more than mine. Madison pulled out her own phone. I made a list too. Want to hear it? What followed was one of the most difficult conversations of my life. We laid out everything, the lies about the engagement party, the years of favoring Madison while making me feel less than, the way she had manipulated both of us into believing the other didn't care. Mom tried every tactic in her playbook. Denial. That's not how it happened. Deflection. You're both being too sensitive. Victimhood. I've sacrificed everything for you girls. Guilt. This is how you repay me? But Madison and I stood firm. We'd practiced. We'd prepared. We didn't let her derail the conversation. Dad mostly stayed quiet, which spoke volumes. He'd enabled her behavior for decades by refusing to intervene. His silence was its own form of complicity. Finally, Mom broke down crying. I just wanted to keep the peace, she sobbed. So you lied to us instead, Madison said, and created fights that didn't need to exist. You made us strangers to each other, I added. Do you understand that you destroyed our relationship to avoid your own discomfort? The conversation ended with us laying out our boundaries. We'd maintain contact with our parents, but on our terms. No more surprise visits, no more guilt trips, no more triangulation. If they wanted a relationship with us, it would be based on honesty and respect. Mom didn't take it well. She accused us of ganging up on her, of being ungrateful, of breaking her heart. But we didn't back down. As Madison and I left together, Dad followed us to the driveway. Your mother loves you both, he said quietly. She just doesn't know how to show it in healthy ways. Then maybe she should learn, Madison replied, because we're done accepting unhealthy love as good enough. In the weeks that followed, things shifted. Some family members reached out to apologize for enabling the dysfunction. Grandma Ruth took Madison and me out to lunch and told us she was proud of us for standing up for ourselves. Cousin Sarah started her own journey of setting boundaries with her parents. My relationship with Madison grew stronger than it had been since we were kids. We texted daily, had dinner weekly, and started planning a real vacation together, one we both knew about in advance. My mother struggled. She sent passive-aggressive texts and tried to recruit family members to her side, but most people saw through it. The more she tried to play the victim, the more obvious her manipulation became. 3 months after the engagement party that wasn't, Madison got married. It was a beautiful ceremony at a vineyard with genuine joy and no underlying tension. Mom and Dad attended but behaved themselves, knowing they were on thin ice. During her reception speech, Madison did something unexpected. She thanked me specifically. To my sister Nora, she said, raising her glass, who taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to accept less than you deserve. Your trip to Portland changed everything, and I'm grateful. The room erupted in applause. Several people came up to me afterward to say they'd heard the story and admired my courage. One of Brett's groomsmen even asked for my number, which was a pleasant surprise. But the best moment came later that night when Madison and I stood outside the venue looking at the stars. I almost lost you, she said softly, because I believed her lies instead of trusting my own sister. We found our way back, I replied. That's what matters. Promise me something, Madison said. Promise me we'll never let anyone come between us again, not Mom, not anyone. I promise. We hugged, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Belonging. Real, unconditional, honest belonging. My solo trip to Portland hadn't just been an act of rebellion or revenge. It had been a declaration of self-worth. It had been me saying loudly and clearly that I mattered, that my feelings mattered, that I wouldn't accept being treated as an afterthought anymore. Did it blow up my family dynamics? Absolutely. Did it cause drama and hurt feelings and difficult conversations? Without question. But it also freed me. It freed Madison. It started a chain reaction of healing and honesty that never would have happened if I'd just accepted the lie and stayed quiet. Sometimes the most dramatic thing you can do is simply refuse to participate in your own marginalization. Sometimes revenge isn't about hurting the people who hurt you. It's about loving yourself enough to walk away. And sometimes a spontaneous trip to see a waterfall is the beginning of finding your way back to yourself and to the people who actually matter. My phone doesn't vibrate nonstop anymore. These days, when it buzzes, it's usually Madison sending me a funny meme or Jenna asking when I'm coming back to Portland. The family group chat still exists, but it's quieter now, more respectful. Mom and I talk, but there's a distance there that might never fully close. And I've made peace with that because here's what I learned. You can't control how people treat you, but you can control how you respond. You can't force people to value you, but you can choose to value yourself. And you can't change the past, but you can decide who gets to be part of your future. My sister's engagement party happened without me, but everything that mattered happened because of it. And I'd book that flight to Portland again in a heartbeat.